Hello, and welcome to 100% Real with Ruby. Today I have Iris back, and last time I had her on, the feedback was absolutely insane. Especially, there was a quote that I had a few people toss at me that was around the whole lean is muscle and you need to train for that lean. But so many of us feel like lean just means chasing weight loss, chasing smaller, but you can't see the lean if you haven't yet built that. And today we are kind of going to touch on a little bit of what we spoke about last time, but we have quite a few really important topics. If long-term results is something that you care about, which I'm guessing everyone listening to this does, because you don't want to gain all the weight back, you don't want to yo-yo around or be stuck on 1,400 calories wondering why your body isn't changing, and say that you've been trying really hard to see results, yet there is nothing there. So with that, here is Iris, and the first thing I'm gonna shoot at you is, why is time outside of a deficit so important? Even if you have a lot of fat to lose, even if you are so uncomfortable in your body right now and you've been trying to lose this weight for so long, why would you want to take time outside of focusing on fat loss?
Yeah, I love this question. And it is counterintuitive and confusing for people, right? Because it's like, well, I have this goal and maybe I'm even a person who needs to lose some body fat for my health. So why would I, in a sense, stall that, right? But I think the biggest piece of this that I would love people to understand is that maintenance is a skill that a lot of us don't naturally know how to do, which is why a lot of people are in the position they're in right now, where they're feeling like they need to lose some body fat and maybe even do. We've never done it intentionally. So I think the best way to do that is to intentionally practice it for, maybe a day at a time for starters, and then maybe a weekend, and then maybe a couple weeks at a time, and really just kind of tiptoe into this new skill of maintenance. And, maybe you're a person with a lot of extra adiposity and you really don't need to get into a true maintenance phase because that might be a lot of calories, but give yourself a couple hundred extra. Practice the skill of eating more food and still keeping that foundation of the basic boring things with you, right? Stress management, daily movement, hopefully resistance training, some kind of exercise, if not specifically resistance training. Did I say stress management? I don't remember. Sleep to the best of your ability. Protein, plants, fiber, carbs, fats, all of the macros. That stuff doesn't change in maintenance. You just have more calories. And that's kind of a mindfuck for some people for many reasons, because we've been, conditioned to think that less is more, eat less, move more, that kind of thing. But that's really super simplified. And I think the biggest piece of this is you don't get comfortable with something new by trying to avoid it. And that's what I see a lot of people. And sometimes I'll have some clients who, come to me from the very beginning saying, shout out to Allison, she just graduated. And she, from the very beginning, has said, I want to learn how to maintain this. She had some fat to lose. She's not done yet. But we spent a lot of time building the foundation of the habits and learning to pivot when life throws a curveball, learning how to take a step back and handle stress that comes her way. And that was her goal from the very beginning. And I applauded her for that from the very beginning, because not a lot of people have that mindset. And really, that is the biggest piece of, in my opinion, physiologically, yes, it's a good idea to take a break from a deficit every once in a while to replenish, feel good. I think a lot of people don't really know how bad they feel in a prolonged, consistent deficit until they're out of one for a little bit. Things downregulate your willingness to move, your motivation, your mood in general, libido, even sleep gets affected. Things physiologically do get affected in a negative way in a prolonged deficit. And I think we all kind of know that, but I don't think people really understand the skill that it is to maintain and be okay with, not much changing. you know, at least not a lot visibly and quickly that, you know, people can see in a deficit, right? If you're going for fat loss and you're being consistent, you can see it pretty relatively quickly. But if you're hanging in maintenance and, you know, still expecting some of this change and working for it, like body recomp, like maybe putting on some muscle and losing fat at the same time, that takes a while. And so it's practicing being okay with that like perceived plateau of, yeah, not much is happening, but I'm able to enjoy my life and practice this skill.
Okay. Hold on, guys. Hold on. There was a part in there that just fired me up, and I just put it into my notepad because I'm going to add that to my list of things that I want to write on after my cardio session today. Being okay with not much changing, because I'm sorry, but you will never, ever get to a place of contentment, get to a place of happiness, get to a place where you are enjoying the journey, experiencing the journey, happy with your physique, happy with your body, which does not mean always loving it, but being satisfied with it, being proud of the body that you built, being able to stay the course, being able to feel empowered for, like, honestly, think about this. However old you are now, add 5 years to that, add 10 years to that. What do you see yourself doing? Because you can't stop the shit that you're doing now, health focused stuff. I don't mean eating 1,500 calories and sacrificing bullshit. Like, I am talking about the maintenance part. If you cannot see yourself when you're friggin' 60 years old making health focused choices, be prepared to look like an Oompa Loompa when you're 60. Because that is going to happen. Your metabolism is slowing down and you are losing muscle if you are not doing anything about it. Because none of that is your fate if you put in the steps now. And guess what? It doesn't have to be grueling. It doesn't have to be hard. It isn't grueling and it isn't hard. Like, we find it easy, Iris and I, only because we've been doing this for how long? We've ingrained these habits for how long? She didn't start that way. I didn't start this way. I used to cry myself to the gym because I used to find it so hard, and because I was fighting an identity where I just did not want to do exercise. I didn't want to show up. I wasn't a fit person. I hated PE. I hated sport. I used to see the gym as, let's just go and do some cardio and some fitness classes, and I tried to get myself into the gym. Like, this shit is really fucking hard at first. You need to force change. And I was writing in my post this morning that I told you about, that neural pathways, in essence, need a shitload of intention and a shitload of attention at first. And then it becomes a little bit more automatic until it becomes the thing that you do more often because you attribute it to a feeling. You attribute it to feeling good. Now, back to my little rant that I started this whole thing off with, being okay with not much changing. Because not much is going to change in 5 years' time when you've been doing this shit for long enough. This is the funny thing, Iris. I don't understand this. And I don't know whether you've had the same thoughts when you've been coaching your clients. They speak to us as if we're not human, as if we're not doing the same things, as if we don't have the same goals to want to have a good physique, as if we don't want to have better health, better fitness, better this, better that. It's almost like we're foreign and they just don't say, like, we get it. Like, you're saying you're complaining about the fact you don't really see changes, blah, blah, blah. Like, how about us? I think I look the same every single freaking month. Damn it. Like, I think I look the same that I did last year. Like, what's changing with me? I can complain about the same shit. But guess what? That's damn reality. Like, we see this shit too, and we've been doing this for so long that we actually don't see much changing. And I've been lifting weights for how long, and I'm actually reducing a lot of my weights a lot of the time because accumulated fatigue. I need to re-ingrain proper movement patterns because guess what? My ego gets in the way sometimes too. And then I get told by my coach that I need to drop the weight the next week. We are in this with you. Okay, that was enough of my monologue. I just really loved that one. But is there anything else you have to add to that part?
Yeah, I mean, I'll say it's hard for me sometimes. Like I don't feel like it a lot of the time. And I do think that is one of the most common things that I hear, and maybe you too, I don't know, about like motivation, right? Relying on the motivation to do things. And I get it, right? That makes perfect sense. Who wants to do stuff that you don't feel like doing? Like, I don't wear jeans because I don't feel like wearing jeans. It's not comfortable. I don't like it. But sometimes they look cute, so I do it. I don't love folding laundry, cleaning the litter boxes, doing all of the chores around the house. I don't do all the chores around the house, but you know what I mean. Doing chores around the house and like the life stuff that is just kind of like, it's got to get done, but I don't want to do it. And I think if people can take a look at their lives and see all of the stuff that they're doing because it just needs to get done, regardless of motivation, and kind of turn that into viewing the stuff, the basic boring stuff, as that as well, I think it does get a little bit easier. I mean, it is hard. Sometimes it's annoying. Like I'm coming down with a cold right now, probably not going to get my steps today because I can't, that is also part of life though. And so meeting yourself with like grit and grace is a really important balance to find, and that's a practice, right? It's a lot of trial and error to kind of figure out what that is for yourself, and sometimes you're going to mess it up, and like give yourself grace when you look back and you're like, yeah, I was totally sandbagging that. I could have lifted heavier, I could have lifted better, I could have gone when I didn't, I could have gotten those steps in and I didn't. I stayed up late scrolling again and I didn't go to bed. And then sometimes, you're gritty about it and you're looking back, you're like, yeah, I should have pulled back. That was too much. I needed to slow down. I needed to give myself this grace. And over time, you get better at gauging what that is for yourself. But I think it comes back to partly like viewing these things like movement and nutrition and, self-care. It's self-care, and viewing it as a privilege and a responsibility, I think can kind of turn that into it's, the cliche, I get to versus I have to. But it's true. Like you get to care about this stuff. That's a privilege. That's a blessing. So I think if we start practicing that before we like feel it, appreciating the process before we necessarily love the process. And there's some things like you may never love lifting weights, but that also doesn't mean that you can't do it. You shouldn't do it. And that also doesn't mean you have to go 4, 5, 6 days a week, So it's just feeling where that is for yourself and meeting yourself where you are, but also understanding, like you said, Ruby, you have to force change. It's not just going to happen. So it's that balance of like grit and grace. But you also said something like about it being hard. And there's this post I keep going back to on Instagram, and I've shared it with my clients, and I just love it. And of course, I'm blanking on who posted it, but it's like, yes, it's hard. Why is that a problem? Why are you making that a problem that it's hard? Because when you think, and this is me, this is not the post anymore, but it's like when you do hard things, you learn so much about yourself and you build so much character, and you like some of the hardest things you ever do are some of the best things you ever do. It doesn't mean you have to make it as hard on yourself as humanly possible. Like that example of going to the gym. If you really don't love strength training right now, you don't have to go 4 days a week. You can go 1 or 2. And put in that intention and intensity and really get some good work in. That's great. So you don't have to make it as hard on yourself as possible, which is the tendency for people when they go for like health and fitness stuff. It's got to be a slog, right? It's got to be really, really hard. And it doesn't have to be, but it likely will be uncomfortable. And that's okay. It's okay. It's not a bad thing.
You need so much self-awareness in this journey, because that way you can actually learn from the lessons. Like you said, maybe I scrolled too much, blah, blah, blah. Like self-compassion and giving yourself grace isn't allowing yourself to scroll. Self-compassion isn't this woo-woo thing. Self-compassion is getting your ass up and going to the gym. It's doing the thing that's in line with your values. It's when you get home from work and you're really tired, it's not letting yourself just be like, oh, it's okay, I'm tired, I did a hard day. No, it's getting your ass out and going to the gym, because that's in line with the life you want to live and the person you want to be. Self-compassion is showing up for yourself because of the person you are on the other side of it. when you do the hard things and you overcome those things, if those hard things are in line with your values, like if it's not in line with your values and the things that enhance the life that you want to live, like who you want to be, you feel so good after it. Like, do I have to do an intervals day on Friday? No, I don't. But I like doing the hard things because I know that I hate going to it. You guys have heard me speak about this on every single podcast because on podcast day is my intervals day and I hate it, but I love it because it's the hard thing that I've chosen to do because I friggin' love how I feel at the end of it. I love the mental bullshit that I put myself through every single sprint, the mental chatter that I have with myself. No, you can push harder for that last 30 seconds of the sprint. You can do this because on the other side, I'm like, I did that thing and I showed up for myself and I feel fit for it. And someone said something to me the other day. Holy shit, you recover fast. You're fit. Because we did a session together and I never trained with anyone. And I was ready to go like 2 minutes, not even 2 minutes after doing walking lunges. And it was a superset. I'm ready to do my next set. And my heart rate is all good and stuff. And she's just like, and I just felt so proud of myself, like so good that I felt fit. And that is the feeling that you get to do. And that is like, it's, yes, to me, I can't resonate with, I get to do this. And I don't think I will ever resonate with that because no, I don't, I can't, I don't know. Just saying I get to go train. No, it's like, I have to go train because I get to feel amazing afterwards. It's, I get to get that outcome from something that I know I have to do to get what I want from it, which is I get to feel amazing. I get to build my body. I get to feel strong, but I have to do these things in order to get that end outcome. You have to do some sort of preparation for your food. You have to do some sort of planning for your food, some sort of tracking for your food to get the outcome that you want. You get to get that outcome if you do the things you need to do. If you can't relate with the, I get to do something that I really don't want to do, maybe that will help you because I can't relate with it either, but that's probably just the way my brain works. I don't know if anyone else can relate. Let me know because I would love to know if anyone else kind of finds those words weird because then that can spark some other debate and then we can get Iris on again and we can talk a little bit more. But you even said yourself, everything in life requires effort. And sometimes that effort doesn't feel like something you get to do. Anyone that says something is effortless, they're going to make things really hard for you because you're setting yourself up expecting it to be easy. And guess what? Maintenance can be pretty easy, but no one does it right, which is why people struggle with it. People find fat loss so freaking easy. I've said this so many times in the last week. Fat loss is hard. I have a client. I love to talk on this one with you. I have a client. She's like, why is fat loss so hard now? I used to find it so easy before, but this is the hardest I've ever found it. And it's funny because she's been eating 22 to 2,400 calories. And she never used to eat over 1,600 before. But I bumped her all the way up. And she had coaches before that she would do maintenance with, she'd do building with, and she used to complain a few months in and they used to give into it. And she did the same with me about, God knows, I can't count on my fingers. She used to complain all the time. Like, nah, hard shit. I say things as it is. And we pushed through for over 2 years. Now I'm like, you know what? Do you want to do a fat loss phase? Because I think you're ready for one now. Like you're in a good place for it. And she wanted to do one. She chose to do one. And she's really wanting to do it, but she's struggling. And she is eating 1,500, 1,600. And she's like, I'm finding this so hard and I'm not even eating as little as I used to eat before when it was like 1,200, 1,300 calories. I used to just skip meals and it used to be fine. But you know what she is doing now? She's prioritizing fuel for training. She's prioritizing making sure that she's getting in her protein. She's prioritizing these things over skipping meals through the day for that end outcome. And that's the thing, like fat loss is fucking hard if you do it right. But maintenance, God damn, it's so easy. I'd love to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, it's so funny because I see the opposite thing in a lot of my clients where fat loss, I mean, yes, it is hard because there's a lot of like relearning and unlearning, because a lot of the people that come to us, they have that yo-yo dieting history where like the vast majority of fat loss they know is like, okay, well, I'm gonna like go keto or intermittent fast or do something like that. So it is kind of like this simultaneous, okay, let's build the foundation, let's build the habits, let's like build some balanced meals and get you eating at least 3 meals a day, and then like also confronting the mindset stuff of like, yeah, you can have a piece of candy with dinner and it's fine. Like you can go to a birthday party and have a slice of cake and then move on, and it's not really that big of a deal. So it's a lot of that, but I find maintenance to be very scary for a lot of people. And I just had a girl agree to go into it because she was like absolutely crushing her fat loss phase. She was very consistent. She was very accurate and honest. And she was like communicative about like, this is stressing me out, like not the fat loss, but like things in life are stressing me out. How can I handle this? That kind of thing. And I was noticing some fatigue and things. And I'm like, well, what do you feel about, let's try it for 3 weeks and just see how you feel. And there was some angst there because they hadn't done it intentionally ever, which is, I mean, I could probably count on one hand how many people I know outside of like the fitness space as coaches who've done intentional maintenance before in their life, right? It's either fat loss or going, ballooning back up, or, unintentionally maintaining because you're trying to do fat loss, but like the scales on the weekends or nighttime snacking or whatever it is evening it out. So you're actually in maintenance, but you have that deficit mindset. So the intentional maintenance is kind of scary. And the reframe that I like is, you've done it before unintentionally. I mean, most people have. So how about we take this awareness that you've gained in this fat loss phase, this consistency that you've been nailing, and just do it with a couple hundred more calories and see how you feel and see how you move and see how like your mood and your stress and all of this stuff feels for you. So I think understanding that probably the vast majority of people have maintained unintentionally for a while kind of takes the edge off of like, okay, well, let's do it intentionally. It's like, it's still a skill that needs to be built, but it's a little bit less daunting because you've already done it before. You're just kind of thinking about it a little bit more. So yeah, but the maintenance I find is the hard part for a lot of people, and the fat loss, for a lot of people, once they get the mindset right, and once they have like the foundational habits of like, because a lot of people who come to me too, they've never tracked before. So it's a stair stepping up into, okay, how do you track your food? How do you weigh it out? How do you build a plate? How do you build a recipe in the app you want to use? Like all of these like little technical things, and becoming comfortable with that first. And then once they get used to that, the vast majority of them kind of cruise. And then, the ones that are open and okay to talk about like, yeah, some stuff is going on in my life right now that's just really stressing me out. Those are the ones that are usually like, all right, we can work with this. We can work through this. It'll be great. So it's funny though, because it's kind of like the opposite for me of what you said.
But this is kind of the part that I've always challenged, because it's not that maintenance is hard, it's that it's mentally hard. Like that's the whole mental game of it, because mentally, yeah, okay, cool, maintenance is fucking hard for a lot of people, because going back to, I think this is like the theme of it, going back to being okay with not much changing. Like no one is. We want instant results. Fat loss is so easy because we see instant results. I wish I'd screenshot every single one of my stories the other day. I might actually go back to do that. But fat loss is freaking easy for so many people because we get that instant reward. We see our bodies leaning up. We feel lighter in our bodies, and we equate feeling lighter in our bodies and our stomachs looking less full and bloated to, yes, I'm winning. And if you weigh yourself, the scales would be a, yes, I'm winning. Like that shit, easy. But then as soon as people feel the slightest bit of discomfort in their jeans, in their tights, in their, actually put a confession up that I don't think I would have results or be where I am today physically, where I'm proud of my body, where I've built the muscle mass that I want, if I had to wear work pants, if I had to wear jeans, if I had to wear blouses or work shirts, because I would probably have got triggered by my legs feeling huge and tight and not fitting in pants. Because, like I said in the other podcast, I still sometimes have dummy spits. I don't know if that's what you call them over there. Dummy spits is like a little tantrum, but I still have dummy spits sometimes over seeing clothes that just don't fit my structure, because I call myself a fat little toe, because I'm just a stocky little thing. Like, I have no waist, I have no hips. I'm just straight up and down like a toe, or a thumb even. Like, that's my body shape. And I've accepted that. But some clothes just don't work on my body. And if I had to wear blouses, I would have chucked tantrums at the fact that my arms don't fit, because when I moved houses, I had to toss out so many of my clothes because I couldn't even put my arm halfway through the sleeves. I'm like, what the fuck? When was the last time I wore this thing? I don't know. And most of my pants, literally nearly all of my pants went away unless they were tights. Like, tights, they look good. Some of my tights didn't even go up half my leg. I'm like, I have not worn half of my clothes in a very long time. And it's so easy to like get down on yourself for that stuff. But that is why maintenance is hard. That's why building is hard, because it comes with discomfort that society has told us is wrong. But that is why once you embrace the mindset of things, it's fat loss that's the hard thing, because that comes with so many sacrifices. That comes with feeling hungry. That comes with effort. That comes with now, because you've experienced what thriving is like. Holy shit, your energy is worse. Holy shit, your performance is worse. Like, it sucks. But this is why being okay with not much changing is probably the biggest flex that anyone could have, because that's the reality in training, and it's the reality in body progress. Because the longer that you've been doing this for, the less change you're really gonna see. Isn't like that's really the case, isn't it? But there was something you mentioned that I want to bring up in whatever you say next, and that's the tracking part. Stop complaining that you can't see results and that nothing's working, and what do I need to focus on if I want to lose this fat? Why is this not changing? I have a wedding in X months, or I have this in X weeks. What do I have to do about it? If you're not tracking your food, even meticulously to the absolute gram, you have no position to complain about the results you're not seeing. Once again, tracking isn't something that you have to stay married to for life. But in a fat loss phase, you bloody well be damn tracking, because why would you want to, like, if you've been dieting for years, you're doing something wrong.
Yeah, I do think it depends on the demographic too, right? That's something I've been thinking about lately and talking about a little bit, is that, you know, as a listener, watcher, consumer of content, you kind of have to know what demographic you're falling into. So for like a lot of my clients who are in bigger bodies, they probably don't have to track. You know, they can do some best practices. And they can, you know, probably eat out a little bit more, probably don't have to get as many steps. But as you get smaller and as you want to continue to progress, there are certain skills that you probably should ramp up. And one of them is tracking and the daily movements. So I totally agree. I mean, again, a lot of the people that I work with have really not ever done that before. So it is, I mean, we would probably chuckle at it, but it's like, does olive oil count? Does butter count? Does like this count? It's like, yes, it does. If it has calories, it does count. And it is going to feel a little bit tedious at first if you've never done it before. And even if you put it down for a little bit and are able to maintain and then pick it back up because you want to dial things in, it might feel a little bit tedious at times. Like in my fat loss phase, towards the end of it, I was like, okay, I'm getting over this right now. I'm a little bit done. And so, you know, I was okay with putting it down for a little bit and maintaining where I was. But, you know, there is something to be said where if you do have specific goals that require specific actions, like fat loss and tracking food, might as well do it right. Might as well do it to its fullest potential and really get the most bang for your buck out of it. and just see what happens, right? Kind of the lean in is one of my favorite phrases, and trust the process, which I know is really like super vague. Like, okay, what does that even mean? But I like telling people, inviting people, like, lean in, like, see what happens, see what you can do, right? Because the going back to discomfort, the thing that a lot of people do when they have, like, I don't know, a chore that they don't want to do, a conversation they don't want to have, a skill that they know they want to build, but it's still that resistance because it's new and it's unfamiliar and it's kind of weird and scary. It's kind of like, ooh, like leaning away, like, I don't want to do that. But what if instead you just like leaned in and see what happens and see what good you can make out of this? And with tracking, I think that's a big one, because a lot of people have some assumptions that, like, it's going to be tedious forever and that it's going to be hard forever and that they're going to have to do it forever until the day that they die. And like my goal for my clients is, I want you to learn how to do this so you can pick it up and put it down when you want to. And you don't have to like be married to it, and you can go on vacation with the foundational habits that you've been doing and not worry about it. And you can maintain if you want to for like a weekend or 5 months if you want to, without tracking if you don't want to. But it does take that like overly mindfulness, like over tediousness at first to get familiar with the skill, which is like nobody's favorite thing. I mean, I just put a reel out the other day. It's like the irony of getting really good at something is that you have to be okay with being really bad at it at first. And it's frustrating. Like, that can get annoying. But if you stick with it and lean in and see what can happen, I think I know a lot of people, because I've heard it so many times and I found it in myself too. It's that freedom and structure, that freedom in the knowledge of the food that you're eating, how it makes you feel, how many calories it is, what's the protein, where's the fiber, do you feel better on higher fat or do you feel better on higher carbs? Like, what is it for you and the way that you're building your food lifestyle? How can you make that work for you? And the tracking piece is like super cool. And it's not for everybody. I mean, I'll always say that. But I think for the vast majority of people it is. And it can be fun if you let it be fun.
Yeah, it can. Like, you can make fun out of all of this stuff.
Yeah.
Once you've at least leaned in and gotten a little hang of it. Like, if you've done swimming lessons in the past, like, that shit would have been really difficult to start with. I was watching a little baby try to learn how to swim, and that's what just came to mind. But like, that would have been really difficult at first, but then you gain confidence at it, and like you said, picked it up. I haven't swam in ages. Like, I would love to find places to get back into triathlon training again, but I have a resistance to it for some reason at the moment. But at the same time, I want to do it. It's like, when there's more oomph to go versus oomph to not go, I'll do it. But at the same time, it's like, I can pick up that skill of swimming again because I've done it for so long. I was in a squad when I was in high school. Like, it's something that I did to a level that I was very damn competent at. And because I was so competent at it, even years on, guess what? I have confidence in that. Once you build competence in a skill, you can have confidence in the process. It is hard to trust a process you're not confident in, and it's hard to be confident in a process if you're not fucking patient enough to build the competence. Like, you need to show up for the hard shit at first to build the habits and to do the work. Once you are doing the things, you have nothing but to trust that work that you're doing because you're doing the work. If you're so focused on outcomes and trying to measure, where's my progress? I need to measure my progress. You're not going to see the progress, because focusing on progress won't give you progress. Focusing on progress photos isn't going to give you changes to your progress photos. It's going to make them worse because you're going to obsess over them to the nth degree and see things that aren't even there. And if you're always waiting for progress metrics, again, being okay with not much changing, like, focus on the process steps. The progress will take care of itself. And it doesn't come in weeks. It comes in dividends, in months. It compounds to the point where, okay, now you've hit this happy place, and now change is going to come really slow. Again, being okay with not much changing. This is kind of going to lean into what I want you to talk about with cognitive biases and body neutrality. But lean into maintenance as well, because maintenance is a skill that is going to serve you a lifetime, because that's where you do have more flexibility. But that does not mean Throw hands up in the air, whatever the fuck, because that's what got you to where you were when you were unhappy. And this is why building skills will serve you for a lifetime. Getting your tracking app out and tracking your food meticulously for at least a month is going to give you so many nutritional skills. It is insane. Like, I had a girl complain to me when she signed up that she couldn't hit protein. She felt fat. She felt heavy every single time. I'm like, nah, mate, protein doesn't do that to you. Because, like, this was in my head. It's like, protein doesn't do that to you. And I said it to her as well in a nicer way, but we came to the fact and to the solution that we needed to, like, cut nuts out of her life to the nth degree and only have a little bit there, and cut avocado out of her life to the nth degree and only have a little bit there, because most of her diet was fat, because all of the protein sources that she was adding in were hardly any protein, mostly fat, like avocado, nuts, seeds, that kind of stuff, hummus, all that kind of stuff. It's like, once you build awareness of what's in the food, like, I had her come to me saying, holy shit, I didn't realize how much fat I was eating and how little protein is in this food. I'm like, it's amazing what tracking your food does, isn't it? And once you realize that 2 eggs is mostly fat, a lot of calories, and not that much protein, then you can start to build a meal, assemble a meal that is going to allow you to, eggs are healthy, so we don't want to cut eggs out, but to include eggs into your life while getting enough protein, while feeling satisfied from the meal. Add in some cottage cheese, add in some egg whites, add in some turkey, add in some chicken. Make this meal something that serves you, sustains you until lunchtime, and that ticks your boxes. Like, you learn what makes you feel good. When you track, not just with the intention of hitting macros or trying to hit 1,200 calories, which is dumb, and why people say tracking is diet culture. That was the other thing that I wanted to say. Tracking is probably the opposite of diet culture, because when people don't track, they complain they're not seeing results. Then they jump to keto, then they jump to no carbs, then they jump to fasting, then they jump to detoxes, all because they don't track to just gauge what their natural habits are and then make small changes from there. Like, it depends how you look at it. But to me, not tracking at least for a week and to not hit calories, to just track at maintenance and be okay with the fact that you're not actually hitting or thinking of fat loss, you're not going to gain fat. You're just going to track your food, aiming to eat close to some maintenance number, just to see how you eat, just to track where your numbers fall, because then you can actually have an accurate gauge of where to go from there, instead of trying the next keto Sally or the next 12-week challenge that puts you on 1,200 calories a day when you're a working mom, and when you do cardio and training because you're trying to shred some fat. Like, that makes sense there. But yeah, I want you to talk about cognitive biases, cognitive distortions, and where this whole body neutrality fits into sustained progress, because you're not going to make progress in a body that you shame, in a body that you berate, in every single day you look in the mirror and all of a sudden your eyes go to your stomach, and you sit down in a chair and all of a sudden your eyes go to your thighs. That was me. That's why I mentioned those 2 things, but I'm sure that you can add more to the table there.
Yeah, it's so interesting to me why people think that shame and guilt works, because it doesn't. And I think we all know that because we've all tried it so many times, right? And it doesn't make anything last, right? It just makes us feel worse about ourselves. And the research actually supports that, people who approach change and, body transformation, lifestyle transformation, all of it, mental, all of it, with self-compassion instead of like judgment, they are the ones that are able to make the most progress, most improvement, and also keep it. And my co-host on my podcast, one of them, and work bestie at Team BFF, Amy, one of her phrases is curiosity over judgment. And I say that all the time. And I invite my clients to do that all the time, because it's such a knee-jerk reaction for a lot of people to just immediately start, pinching and poking and judging, whether it's something that they're not super thrilled about with their physique, or it's, maybe they missed a macro, or, had an off day with whatever, a bad workout, a bad mood, feeling fluffy one day, feeling fat, all of these things, the knee jerk is so often judgment instead of, oh, I wonder why that happened. I wonder why I'm feeling that way. I wonder how I could make myself feel better in a productive way. I wonder why I was so short on protein that day. Let me take a look and see what I can do to make it better. Like, I wonder why I'm so down on myself about my cellulite today. Let me see what I can do that's, respectful to move forward from this. And I think too, and I don't know if you see it still, but from what I see, body positivity, the whole body positivity movement is a little quieter than it was. And I'm a little bit glad for that, because I think for most people, it's too big a jump. It's like not realistic for the vast majority of people. And so my preference and my preference for my clients and the people I speak to is like more neutrality, more neutral than positive. Because I feel like it's so easy to maybe gaslight ourselves into thinking we love things that we don't super love, and it's okay to not love them. And also, I think a lot of people feel that shame and guilt because they might not feel so positively about something in their body. And it's okay to not love every little, nook and cranny of your body. It's okay. And I think when people can realize that they don't have to love it, they don't have to love absolutely everything about themselves, but they also don't have to be super negative and hate it and pick it apart, the journey gets a lot easier. And I was thinking as you were talking earlier too about like the timelines people put on themselves really hurt their progress and their ability to be neutral about things. Like you had mentioned, dieting for summer or dieting for a wedding or fitting in a dress by Christmas or whatever it was. And one of the things that was super impactful for me when I was like getting into this in a more evidence-based, balanced way, I was talking to my friend Jordan Syatt, and I had just gotten engaged, and I was struggling with a little bit of that like urgency where, okay, I'm getting married. I do want to make some changes to my physique, and I want to do it right, but I also cannot ignore like this date where a big thing is happening. And that's kind of, a lot of people either make that up for themselves or they do have a thing like a wedding or, a summer vacation or a trip to Paris that's like once in a lifetime, and they want to feel good and confident. And so it's a little bit crazy to tell them to ignore that, I think. But the thing that Jordan told me that like changed everything for me, and it was like a ton of bricks lifted off my shoulders, was eliminate the deadline. Just get rid of the deadline. Do the boring basic things, build the foundation. If you want to go for fat loss, be consistent in a calorie deficit. And then what happens will happen. And what he told me was to put the date that I had in my head on my first anniversary instead of my wedding day. And that was huge for me because a few things happened. One, like I said, it was like a ton of bricks lifted off my shoulders. It allowed me to slow down and be kinder to myself in the moments that I did mess up and went over calories or didn't get my steps or had a bad workout or whatever, or had a bad day just about myself in my head. And by the time it was my first anniversary, a lot of those habits, like the foundational health supporting habits, it's just what I did, right? It was just a lifestyle by that point. It wasn't something I was doing for a date. And that really helped me be a lot more neutral about the entire process, including my body. And I think if people can really detach themselves from any timeline, deadline that they have in their head, it'll be easier in a sense to do the things and be consistent and build the habits and be gentle with yourself. Again, it's that balance of grit and grace. Like if you have a priority, make it a priority and get it done. But also, you're going to mess up because you're human, and that's okay. So give yourself some grace in those moments, right? There's no deadline by which you have to look a certain way, weigh a certain thing, fit into a certain size. It'll be okay. And that really did a lot for my own neutrality around this stuff.
I think a huge part is actually going back to the timeline thing. Summer comes around every single year. And people think that, people approach the year in terms of, okay, whatever, it's winter, whatever, it's autumn. I'm going to shred for summer. That's usually the mentality that people have on a 12-month cycle. So that's one. And number two in that is I'm going to do fatless in summer and then whatever the fuck in winter. But then what do most people do in summer? They go out, they want to enjoy barbecues, they're more active, they're more social, you're out more. It's harder for you to stick to a deficit in summer. Well, this is what I found with some of the girls. So it's like there's always going to be some form of challenge that is going to make it hard for you to do the thing. Cool, summer's a great time, but it's also a shitty time. Cool, winter's a great time, but it's also a shitty time because you want comfort foods, you want these other things. But if you're always trying to just fat loss for summer, or every single time summer comes along, it's time to go into a fat loss phase, you're going to struggle. Because number one, you're still seeing things in terms of everything is about my body. You're still focusing on body as the only part of this process in terms of whatever, okay, now I have to rein it in for summer because I'm going to be wearing less clothes. Number two is because what if you're not in a mental or physical place for fat loss yet? Which is why we started this whole thing off in maintenance, because you might physically need a fat loss phase, but mentally that's only gonna undo you more than serve you, which is, if I had to be really honest, 99% of people, because mentally you've been trying to diet your whole life. Mentally, you're not going to do the things you need to do for a fat loss phase, but guess what? You don't have to have quote unquote maintenance calories. You can quote unquote have maintenance habits. And guess what? You might most likely shape up, lose fat, transform your body without even focusing on fat loss, which is also what I find majority of the time, because you've removed the pressure. But you need to mentally commit. Like, this isn't just I'm going to tiptoe into the, no, this is the IRS's lean in. This is the do the shit, lean into it. Because if you fully lean into it, you will see so much benefit from it, but you will not if you keep waiting for the harvest. Do the damn gardening. Just focus on the gardening, because the gardening takes effort. When there's a lot in your, like, if you want to have a huge garden bed that's gorgeous, there's a lot of work to do. And most of us want the best for ourselves, so we have a huge garden bed. Like, if you only have a few pot plants because you don't really give a shit, then it takes less tending, less taking care of. But when you have a huge garden, which a lot of people listening to this want to transform their physiques to that level, then focus on doing the day in, day out essentials. And the harvest will take care of itself. The seasons will assist the garden beds, but they don't determine your actions on a day-to-day basis, because you still need to tend to those garden beds. And if it's raining one day, guess what? You probably don't have to water the garden that day. But there are other things you're probably going to need to do. It kind of works in a similar fashion. And you did say something there. You are going to mess up. And I think a lot of people don't understand that relapse is a part of the process. Like, you can be doing the things, you can be motivated, quote unquote, you can be supercharged, ticking the boxes, and something happens that takes you out of normal routine, or even just you happen. You as a human, you happen because you're human. Relapse is normal. Shaming it, thinking that you're just going to hide it away and trying to push through it, or just, this isn't made for me. It's so much like, we go back to comfort. It's so much easier to go back to comfort.
And that makes sense, right? And I just told our group coaching the other day, like, comfort zones have a place. They exist for a reason. They exist to keep us safe. And that's not always a bad thing. But it is important to understand when you have to step outside of the comfort zone and see, again, lean in and see what happens. And I think there's so much fear. There's so much fear about, well, what if, I get fat? What if I don't lose this weight? What if this also doesn't work? Because I've tried so many things. What if what if I'm not liked? What if people think poorly of me? What if I'm not pretty? All of these things, there's so much fear. And it's like, but what's really the worst that could happen when you pause and take a breath and think about it? What's the worst that could happen? What's the best that could happen? You learn a lot about yourself and you start building some foundational habits that you can take with you for the rest of your life. And so you're not on the roller coaster all the time. And like you said, sometimes, you fall off the roller coaster, and that's okay. Something I see a lot in my clientele is perfectionistic tendencies. And I think going back to the timeline deadline thing, people really underestimate how long it takes to build a habit, to change your identity. And there's a lot of things that we know logically. Scale fluctuations, for example, is like probably the most perfect example. People know why it moves around. They do. They know why it fluctuates and why it goes up and down day to day, and that it's not going to be linear. But they know it before it's like fully internalized and before it sinks in and they get it, you know? And it takes a long time of sometimes sitting in that mushy, gross middle of like, I know this logically, but I still feel really bad today because the scale spiked up. And you have to sit in that for a little bit, maybe a couple of years. Because a lot of my clients too, they're 30 plus. The vast majority of my clients are 30 plus, so they have decades under their belt of, you know, warped views of their body, of diet, of exercise, of all of these things. And I'm like, it's not going to undo itself in 4 months. It's not. So give yourself some grace there. Be okay with sitting in that messy middle and talking to yourself back into the logic of things until one day you wake up and you're like, oh, the scale spiked up. And then it just doesn't bother you. It just really doesn't bother you. And then you think about it and you're like, whoa, it really didn't bother me. This is another thing that I've achieved now. But that messy middle and like eliminating the timeline by which you're going to be fixed is such a huge piece of the puzzle that I think people need to practice. Because that too, it's not going to happen overnight. Like you can know, okay, this isn't going to happen in a year. That's fine. I get it. Like logically, I know it's going to take a while, but you're probably still going to get frustrated sometimes and disappointed and annoyed at the process and not really super love everything that you do. And that's okay. It's okay. You're not a robot. You're human. And it's okay to feel that. And then like redirect yourself into what now are you going to do about it? How are you going to be respectful of both yourself and the actions that you need to take to get you where you want to be?
I love that because you're not a robot and you're not someone's social media depiction, because everyone on social media is perfect, because that's what we show on social media. No one's posting their failures. No one's posting their home life. You're seeing them when they're at their best. You're seeing them when they pick up their phone. Most people don't have a phone in their hands when their house is chaos, when their toddlers are chucking tantrums, when whatever the hell is breaking loose in the house. No one's documenting that bullshit. No one's documenting their tears. Like very few people through their hard stuff. And I love this because I really wanted to talk on these cognitive biases. And I think the timeline is the one that sparked so many of them. And I love how you said something to be fixed, because we always feel like there's all these things to be fixed, where no, it's just things that need to be practiced more often and things that need to be practiced less often. And
I love that. It's not something to be fixed. It's something to be practiced. That's exactly right. That's exactly right.
Yeah. And there was one more thing I wanted to say before you sum up with the cognitive distortions, because I really want that to be the little bow on this thing. Instead of thinking of trying to be positive with your body, trying to be positive with your actions, think about productive. I just came up with a new thing the other day, and it was choose productive over positive, because trying to force positive when you're in a negative state kind of leads to like this ambivalence. But if you think about what's the most productive thing I can do for myself right now, it is most likely doing that thing that you know you need to do, or that thing that you know is holding you back, you know you need to crush. So think about what is the most productive thought that I can have right now that's going to serve me. And I think that can help you as well, because sometimes just thinking positive is like, I'm positive, I'm happy, but inside you're like, this isn't going to stick any longer than 2 minutes. So that might help as well. How do you want to sum this up with like the cognitive biases and ways that people can take everything that we've said, which was probably another solid Bible of a podcast that we could have rambled on for hours, into something that they can be a little bit more aware of, because biases and distortions in themselves are things that you are unaware of.
Yeah. I mean, I think I mentioned one of the big cognitive distortions is like the perfectionistic tendencies that people have. And, you know, a distortion is like a thought that we can take and completely exaggerate how we're feeling about a situation or a person or a thing or an action. And that perfectionism is really a killer, along with the timelines, because the timelines exacerbate the perfectionism, and then the perfectionism exacerbates the timelines, because it's like, well, I have to be perfect until this date to get what I want. And if you're not perfect until this date, well, then this date's just getting closer and I'm not getting any closer to where I want to be. So it's like, take a pause, take a breath, slow your breathing, get your shoulders out of your ears. Like some of this, and it goes back to the whole fear thing. There's so much fear around this stuff that turns into stress. And you just need to practice taking that pause and zooming out and looking at the bigger picture of everything and seeing if the world is really ending, right? Which I say half jokingly, but sometimes I talk to clients and have conversations on Instagram, and it's like, this is normal life, and you are taking this and absolutely catastrophizing it into the end of the world. And it's not. Like, none of the stuff you and I do, Ruby, is life or death. None of it is. Like, us being coaches, it's a luxury to be able to pay for us, you know? It's not necessarily a, you know, fundamental piece of being a human is to have a fitness and nutrition coach. It's not. None of this is life or death. And a lot of people kind of treat it like it is because of these timelines, because of the deadlines, because of the numbers in our head, because of the idea that consistency equals perfection, even though that's another thing. Like, we know logically it's not, but a lot of us, we just don't get it yet. Like, it's not sunk in that consistency does not mean 100% all the time. So I think that's the biggest thing. And then in terms of the body positivity or body neutrality piece, it's like one of the biggest ones is the fixation on maybe something you notice in the mirror that you don't super love. And then it kind of, that gets catastrophized too into, I'm ugly, I'm a failure, I will never be happy, I will never look the way I want to look, I will never succeed, I will never be loved. All of these things that we just, without taking a pause and stepping away from the mirror, you realize after a few minutes that you are blowing it out of proportion and that you will be okay. But it takes that pause. And that is a hard thing for people to practice because we are so used to living very reactively, right? Something triggers us, something pisses us off, something makes us sad. And it's like, okay, you know, feel it, but you don't have to ride down a rabbit trail of making this like the worst day of your entire life, which is something that a lot of people do, which is understandable, right? Again, it's the fear of not being accepted for who you are. And the idea that if you're accepted for who you are, then you won't want to change anymore or do any of these, you know, positive lifestyle things that you're wanting to do. And so sitting with that for a moment, but not dwelling on it, and kind of dismantling that in your own mind after taking a pause is really huge. That's a superpower. If everybody could just learn to step back and take a pause, take a deep breath, and come back to the logic side of your brain. And logic and emotion can exist simultaneously, right? Like you said, it's not forcing the positivity. If you're feeling crappy, feel crappy. It's okay. You're not a robot, as we said. You can feel what you need to feel, but you don't need to get stuck there. You don't need to wallow there. And I think a lot of it goes back to that next best decision, that next respectful action for both yourself and the process you're trying to build into a lifestyle.
I have one challenge to everything that you said. Otherwise, I think this is such a great summary. The challenge that we are a luxury, because I don't believe that whatsoever. I actually think that we are a first line defense. We are a first line intervention as coaches, like actual coaches. If you get some fucking IFBB pro bullshit itis that is not an actual, like there is a difference between a trainer, a nutritionist, a dietitian, blah, 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 and a coach. A coach can also be a nutritionist. A coach can also be a program design specialist, blah, blah, blah. A coach is completely different. We aren't a luxury. A personal trainer at the gym is. A dietitian probably is, but a coach is a first line intervention. It honestly is. Your nights out, your whatever the hell, they are a luxury, but there's something that you can still factor into your life in a moderate way if that is something you choose to do. It's not, let's just take away your life, because nutrition is like a tiny part of health. There is social health, there's emotional health, there's mental health. there's a whole bucket list of things that make up this dimensional thing of health. And a lot of people don't like talking to their spouse or whoever the hell around them. A coach can facilitate that. A coach can do so much for you in a sense of saving medication, helping you with your health, because without us, you're spiraling around, spending even more money on bullshit, falling for fads, not knowing what's false and what's fiction. Wait, they're both the same thing. What's fiction, what's false and what's true, what's fiction and what's nonfiction. Like, it's almost like actually I still do it, which is why I decided not to look online at this stuff, because I will probably fall for bullshit. But I don't understand shit about my car. I don't understand shit about face and skincare and makeup. Well, not makeup, but like face and skincare. So if I try to believe whatever they say about hair, skin, face, whatever the fuck, I'm probably going to believe it. And it's probably not true because I don't have any context around it. And that's like you guys with health and fitness. Like, yeah, some things can make a lot of sense. Like saying if you have really high insulin, your blood sugar is going to go crazy, and all of a sudden you're going to store a lot of body fat. And that's why you feel lethargic, because the carbs and the sugar and the overeating just turns into body fat. Like, that makes so much sense. You're going to believe it. But none of what I just said is true. Not a single bit of that is true. Fat is the most likely thing to get stored as fat, even without the presence of insulin, because it's fat. Yet we are so fast to believe that sugar is the devil because that's what we've been fed. And the things that we hear most often, we tend to then believe is true. So that's just like my little take on, I feel like investing in a coach is probably the best thing you can do for yourself, because then you can start living your life. You don't have to think about all this other bullshit. Your health, all that kind of stuff is taken care of by someone who cares about you as well. But yeah, cognitive distortions, perfectionism. I feel like the biggest part of what you said, which I really want to drive home, is that catastrophizing. I think that is the biggest thing that actually holds a lot of people back, because even the perfectionist tendencies, people turn that into catastrophizing these little things because of being a perfectionist. Everything gets catastrophized.
Yeah, it's a hard one. It's a hard one. It takes a lot of practice to catch yourself in those moments. And like, I'll even joke with some clients sometimes when they send me messages. I'm like, is this a catastrophe moment? Are you making this the end of the world when it's not the end of the world? And sometimes, very often, they're like, yes, I am. I get it. Like, thanks for calling me on that, because I was not in a good place. And I'm like, I get it. You know, this is important to you. And so when it feels like you've messed up, it's like a big deal because you care about this. But again, going back to, takes a lot longer than you think it does to change a lifestyle and build a new person and build a new identity that just consistently does the things that you want to do. It takes a lot longer than you think. And it's okay to take one step back every once in a while and catch yourself in that. It's a lot better to do that and catch yourself in it than to do it and not even realize you're doing it, you know, because it goes back to tracking too. That awareness is where it all starts. If you're not aware of it, then you can't change it. And awareness is such a huge win, because it's like the start of all good change, is when you start to become aware of the things that you don't really resonate with anymore. It's not the kind of person you want to be. It's not the habits you want to have. It's not like the kind of food style you want to have. It's a big step. And a lot of people kind of see it as like, well, just awareness. I'm like, no, the awareness is a huge piece of this. Don't minimize it. Lean in.
I'm not going to add anything to that, because that last part, it sums it up. And it's why I always was questioning this post that I still haven't reposted, because to me, when I look at it, it's like, that's so foo-foo. No one's going to care about that. It's just going to swipe by because it's about awareness. But no, it's the hugest thing. So
mindset is anything but foo-foo, girl.
Yeah,
that's like where it all comes down to. It all has to come back to the mindset of it.
Thank you. That's it. Mindset, like honest mindset. That like this is what you need for the most change. To see the most change, you need to be comfortable with not seeing change, because you're not going to a lot of the time. To see the most change, you have to be comfortable with building that awareness first, having some non-tangible things to focus on. Mm-hmm. So I think this is probably one of the next top episodes that we've had in the last couple of months. So I want everyone to listen to this twice, honestly, twice as a minimum. Take some notes, because the start of the conversation will have a completely different meaning to you after listening to the end of this conversation, which I always find with a lot of meaningful podcasts, but we too quickly want to move to the next one. But yeah, I hope this helps. And if you guys have anything you want to ask us, there's Iris Deadlifts on Instagram, and there's TransformX Ruby on Instagram. We're both here. We both want your feedback. We both want your questions. Iris posts a lot. I post most days, every day, most days. I don't know. I'm just shoving shit up. Sometimes I shove up extra shit because I have too many thoughts in my mind, and so does Iris, because it's clear that she does the same thing. So we're here to help you. We are passionate about what we do, and I hope this has helped all of you guys. Is there anything you want to sum up with?
No, I think you crushed it. I would just say, if you do like podcasts, I have one with my co-coach on Team BFF, Amy, and one of our best friends, Mary. Here's the deal: fitness, nutrition, and mindset for people who don't want life to suck. It's a long ass name, but it kind of sums up what we do. And I think it's pretty awesome. I love it. So
life doesn't need to suck. With that,
nope.
bye.
Bye.
Here's the deal.